Welcome back to the yoga chat. Excited
Hi,
to be
Mom.
here per usual. Sup, Mom? How are you, May?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited about our guest. So today our guest is the one and only Matt Schwartz. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
I know. Thanks for being here. We're excited. Um, so background, we know Matt because he goes to Yoga 6 South Hills. And other than the yoga studio, and now he's dating one of my best friends, I don't really know much more about Matt. He played hockey, I know that. So I'm excited because this conversation is going to teach not only everyone that's listening more about Matt, but May and I more about Matt too. His background, his yoga journey, all the goods.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to learn my story.
All right, cool. Well, so I'm sure you know, I shouldn't assume that people know this, but I eventually need to stop saying it so that people don't have to hear it every single episode. But the first question, the last question are always the same. And then the middle questions are dependent on, the individual. So what's your zodiac sign?
So I'm Aquarius.
Oh yeah, I
And,
knew that because you're the same as Hannah.
yeah, and Hannah tells me that I'm Aquarius cusp because I'm Pisces Aquarius cusp.
Oh,
Oh,
you're extra weird then.
I'm a total weirdo.
I like it.
Yeah.
do you happen to know your sun and I mean your moon and rising because of Hannah or no?
Well, yeah, I came prepared. I
Yes.
Aquarius rising, Aquarius sun, Aquarius rising, and Gemini moon.
You are the weirdest.
Yeah. Apparently
Yeah.
I'm very airy. I've been
I'm a
told.
Gemini sun and an Aquarius moon, and I'm weird as fuck. So I'm with you. I get
Yeah.
it.
Embrace the weird. I'm all about
Yeah,
Me
alien
too.
people.
It's a way of life.
it.
Amazing. So why don't you just kick us off by letting us know a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and some of your background?
Cool. Well, my name is Matt Schwartz. Um, I live in Mount Lebanon. I went to Peters Township High School. I went to Penn State. Um, I coached the South Fayette varsity hockey team. Like you alluded to earlier, I played hockey growing up, and it's been a big part of my life. I started a hockey training business called Quest Hockey in 2012, and that's sort of been my main line of work for a long time. Um, and I got into yoga, I would say in 2016, for the first time at South Hills Power Yoga. And I started doing classes with Darcy, and she basically got me to fall in love with yoga at that time. And I did it for a little bit and on and off, and kind of took some time away from it. But I've been fully entrenched in yoga for the past 2.5 years. And most recently, I've been working on a new business venture called Mindfuel Method, that focuses on some other self-growth modalities with cold plunge, sauna, breathwork, and movement. And so I've always had sort of a entrepreneurial itch. My mom has a hair salon that she started almost over 30 years ago. And so it's just been ingrained in my family. And I've always had that sort of eye of how can I turn this into a business, or what kind of business opportunity is there here or there. And so yeah, that's kind of my story. And um I must admit I'm not a yoga expert at all. I'm a practitioner, and I've been doing it for a little over 2 years, but I absolutely love it. And it's a huge part of my life.
Yay. Well, yeah, that's exactly why, or not why we have you on, but we are really passionate and want to make sure that we have yoga professionals on because that's great and dandy. But also that we have yoga practitioners on because that's going to help us reach our or align with our mission of the podcast, which is to get people that haven't done yoga before on the mat, or maybe that have tried it and they were like, that's not for me, to try again. So I get really excited about all of our conversations, but especially whenever we get to talk to someone that has a liking toward yoga, and I can maybe go as far to say a passion toward practicing yoga, which I would say Matt does, if that's in my, humble opinion. And it doesn't really go beyond taking class, but it does go beyond, right? Taking class. So Cool. Super exciting. May, were you going to say something?
I wanted to ask him about Darcy because me and you both in episode 1 we all had experiences where Darcy was a big player in getting us to love yoga. And I guess I'm curious if she was the first teacher you had. Is that the first class you went to? What did you love about it? What did you love about her or resonate with her that made you want to keep going back?
Yeah, Darcy was my first ever yoga teacher. And wow, that's a really cool question. She was so patient in sort of explaining things and helpful. And I don't know, something about her voice and the way that she sort of communicated with her students and with me just made me feel very comforted when I was in there. It's obviously yoga can be a little intimidating for some people. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little intimidated the first time I tried it at that studio. And she really helped me sort of dip my toe into the water and feel like I belonged and I was going to do okay and I was going to be okay. She had amazing adjustments. I thought her adjustments were really cool and helped me kind of establish my foundation of my yoga practice and my breathing. Yeah, and I just really enjoyed her classes. I found them very challenging. I think that's one thing that most people that don't do yoga, when they do it for the first time, they realize how much more difficult it is than it appears to be. And so she was a friend, and I started doing it with one of my best friends at the time, who was also a hockey player. And we actually, for a very brief moment, offered yoga for hockey players, a class on Quest Hockey, and she was our yoga instructor for it. And so, yeah, I've been yearning to get back with Darcy for a long time. She's an amazing yoga instructor.
We agree.
So many people have talked about Darcy on this podcast that we need to have her on. She might not even listen. I'm gonna reach out to her.
Yeah,
like, Darcy, you're a celebrity and you don't even know
it.
And Darcy knows May and I just like she would know you and I, Matt. Like, she doesn't know May and I as friends or like as a unit. She knows us totally separate. So I think she would be really excited to hear, like, wait, what? You two are doing a podcast together? Fuck yeah.
It's amazing to hear how much of an impact South Hills Power Yoga has had. I know I'm listening to some of your podcasts. I noticed that, for example, Tyler started there, I think.
Yeah.
Hannah started there. So that's where my journey started as a practitioner. So it's amazing what a little studio like that in Dormont can do and have an impact on for people.
Yeah, May did her teacher training there. The only reason I didn't do my teacher training there because it didn't align with my schedule at the time. So I at least considered it and would have done it there if it did align. So yeah, South Hills Power Yoga, hard shout out again, but I'm glad you brought that up because we do talk about South Hills Power Yoga a lot. And I think it's important to mention, I got goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps. I think it's important to mention, like you said, what an impact this little studio in Dormont has had on so many different people. It's really cool.
Right.
So what made you and your friend decide to show up to a yoga class in 2016?
So he went first. And so he had a really positive experience there, and he had mentioned it to me. And he had mentioned how much it was impacting his life in a positive way and how much it made him feel good. And then I'll never forget, there's a YouTube video. I'm sure you guys have seen it. I think it's called Never Ever Give Up. And I want to say it's Arthur's inspirational transformation. Have you seen it? He was like a war veteran. He was a little bit overweight. He was immobilized. He couldn't really walk very well. And it was his transformation story. And they showed him practicing yoga, I think, at home. And just the profound impact it had on this man was like, yeah, I have to be doing this. How can I not be doing this once you watch that video? And so I went with him. I'll never forget, I wore like a wife beater. It felt so uncomfortable in there. But had an awesome experience. And that was how I kind of got into it for the first time. And it was one of those things where I had such a positive experience that I quickly turned into a yogi and told everyone that was willing to listen that I did yoga and that they should do it too.
What do you think? I mean, other than it being, like you said, incredibly challenging, humbling, all of that. And I guess, at first, I think like most people, or at least that's what I got from what you just said, is that you showed up at first for the physical benefits of yoga. Now, how quickly before you started to recognize how much more of the mental benefits it had on you than the physical?
So when I first started in 2016, it was definitely all physical for me. And then I took some time off and I got back into it in 2022, I want to say, or 2021, February of 2021. I think is when or no, February of 2022 at Yoga 6. And so I had, let's just call it like a life-changing event for me that really shifted my life in a different way and trajectory. And so I was looking for activities that would positively fill my cup and that would help me grow as a person. And yoga was one of those things. And due to COVID, I think the studio that I had been going to, Southwest Power Yoga, was going, I don't know, that there weren't as many classes to offer. So I looked and found Yoga 6 and got into a consistent practice there. And that is where I think a more mature Matt discovered the benefits, the mental benefits of yoga, and being, having that hour to myself, being off of my phone, focused on my breath, and very much so looking inward. And I would say that's really when I discovered the mental benefits of yoga in my most recent sort of reacclimation to yoga.
Now, is all those mental benefits part of the reason you were inspired to start your Mindfuel Method business?
No doubt. Yeah, I think that, one aspect of yoga that I think is a little overlooked, but is the breathwork aspect of it.
Mhm.
It's so challenging. I found when I got back into it, it was challenging to maintain that consistent breathwork. I found myself like holding my breath, just, off rhythm. And it has had such a tremendous impact on my life in terms of feeling good. I always say it feels good to feel good.
Mhm.
And yoga is one of those things where while I'm doing it and afterwards, I just feel amazing. And so I've often looked for ways to continue to feel good, and what can I do in my life that'll make me feel better. And I do have like a little bit of a play side of, I've heard about this, I heard about that, I want to try this, I want to try that. And so yoga was kind of like the foundation for me to try other things and see what might help me feel better. So I don't know if it's an appropriate time to like kind of get into the whole story of how I started
Yeah. Yeah.
um yeah, I mean, I would say like I'm a big Andrew Huberman fan. I listen to his podcasts and I love like the scientific approach that he takes to everything. And I've, Joe Rogan as well. And I listen to some podcasts about the benefits of cold water and sauna therapy as well. So I started taking cold showers in the morning just as like a quick way of going about it. I live in a small apartment, so I don't have a tub and access to a tub. And so I started taking cold showers in the morning. And I absolutely thought it was hell. Very, very difficult. But also when I got out, I just felt better. Again, it was one of those things where I just felt better after I did it. And so did that for about a year, I would say. And then finally had the opportunity. Hannah, my girlfriend, actually suggested that we go to Pittsburgh Tub Club. So you previously had Tyler on, and I think it was in September that we went to our first Pittsburgh Tub Club event, and it just blew me away. It was my first cold plunge that I'd ever done. Those guys are amazing. I love what they're doing. It's fantastic. They're a great group and they've created an amazing community. And I just will never forget the feeling that I had after my first ice bath. Like my brain was on fire and my body was on fire, and I just felt like I could conquer the world, and I was hooked. And prior to the ice bath, it was like, everyone was kind of feeling out the scene and a little bit like low key, low vibration. But then after everyone got in the ice bath, everyone's standing around the fire just yapping away at each other. like talking to people, interacting, and very similar to yoga, no one was on their phone. Everyone was present, communicating, looking each other in the eye, like having these conversations that I think that we've sort of lost nowadays. So that experience has had a tremendous impact on me. And I just wanted to continue to learn more about those modalities. And like I alluded to earlier, I've always wanted to try to find ways where I can create something for myself. So I did a little bit more research and found a company called Othership, which is in Toronto. And they do cold plunge, sauna, breathwork. And we took a trip to Toronto in October and went and experienced Othership and what they have to offer. And again, it was just another experience that blew me away. And so we started Mindfuel, which is ice bath, sauna, breathwork, movement, but mobile events and private parties. And so we've been operational now for about a month and had our first event last weekend at F45 in the Strip District. And it was awesome. And we have our first sort of event open to the public this Sunday. I don't know when this will be airing, but it's this Sunday, December 17th at Mind Body Yoga in South Fayette. And I just couldn't be more excited to try to share these amazing modalities and amazing things that help you feel better with as many people as possible.
I like your simplification of it, which is just that you're inspired that it made you feel good and that you want to share that, because when it boils down to it, you could talk about breath work and you could talk about your mental health all day, but if people are doing more things that make them feel good on a daily basis, everybody's going to start doing better things because they all feel better. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't even have to be yoga. It doesn't even have to be taking a cold bath, but if you could find the thing that makes you feel a little bit better every day, it's going to make a huge impact on your entire life and every single person that you come in contact with. That said, yoga definitely takes the cake on things, in my experience, that have helped me feel better, in my times of staring at my phone too much or not being present. And I found, just like you said, I resonated with that a lot. Just my ability to be in a group with people and enjoy their company has increased significantly since starting to practice yoga. And I don't think about that necessarily all the time, but after you mentioned it, it's so true. The dog has entered the chat.
Denim is not feeling well, you guys, but to not
wearing a bow tie, just
subject. He has a bow tie and he has a chunk out of his snout because of my older dog, and he's got the runs, and he's just poor Denim's not feeling great. But back to Matt. So I think it's really important. I think it's important to note too, like the kind of the hiatus or the break that you took between starting in 2016 and coming back in 2022, because that happens for, like, I'll go as far to say every yoga practitioner. I'll say 9 out of 10. It's definitely happened for me. Like, the practice for me has ebbed and flowed throughout the years. And it's interesting too, because I said in the beginning of our conversation, like, I'm happy to have you on because the mission is to get more people on their mat that haven't tried, or to get people back on the mat who have tried it and not liked it, or maybe taken a pause. And I've never said that before. And then you mentioned taking that pause. And then, something in your life happening where you were like, I want to feel good and I want to focus on the things that, bring light and positivity into my life. And, oh, right, I remember yoga did that for me. So I'm going to try that again. And all that to say is, like, I think it's so important to remember that yoga, I say this a lot, but the yoga is always there. And anytime that you need it, it's always available to you. And when you do take pauses, it's okay. And to not be afraid or feel ashamed or guilty, or to let those feelings deter you from getting back on the mat whenever it's time. I think it's so cool too, that it feels like, or from what I'm hearing is that, like, when you stepped back on your mat in 2021, it kind of like started to cultivate your life again, because you met your now girlfriend, and it, from what I understand, inspired this like motivation and inspiration to do things that feel good, which ultimately inspired Mindfuel Method, which is amazing. And this will air on Friday, the 16th. So this will
15th.
air the day before, the 15th, whatever this Friday is, the 15th. Thank you. So this will air before your event at Mind Body, you said, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anyone's listening to this before, do you say it's Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday
Sunday.
at 10.
Sunday at 10, and you're in the Pittsburgh area, go check out Mindfuel Method at Mind Body. I can't wait. I've also been recently not taking cold showers all the way, but turning the shower cold at the very end to like rinse out my conditioner. And now I'm like also, I want to work on my grit, like the skill of grit. So anytime I'm in the shower and I'm like, I don't want to, I'm like, no, you have to just, even if it's 20 seconds, just do it. And, it's not the same as a cold plunge, which I've only done once, but I couldn't agree more. Like even just rinsing the conditioner out of my hair with freezing cold water, being able to focus on my breath is so just wildly beneficial. When I get out of the shower after doing that, I truly feel like I could take on the world. It's like, it's reminding me like I need to go dip in in an entire tub, because if like this little bit of cold water is making me feel this good, like gateway drug, gotta get more.
So I don't know if you have the answer to this, but I was thinking about this today because I was on my walk. It was cold outside. My face was frozen. I was frozen. And I was in my head, I was like, are there benefits to just being exposed to the cold in general? Or is it the specifics of getting into a tub filled with ice? And it's okay if you don't know, because it's a really random question, but I meant to ask Tyler when he was on too. I just don't know if it's like the human body enduring cold. Is that in general the good thing? Or is there a difference between that and the actual plunging into the tub that makes it better?
So there is a benefit to just being in the cold air.
Yeah.
From my understanding and my research, people use ice baths in water because water's more efficient in transferring heat. So the water, because it touches every part of your skin when you're in there, pulls the heat more efficiently than air does.
Okay.
That's the benefit of getting into it's I forget the term, but heat transfer. It's like 4 times better when you're in water versus when you're in air, but there is a benefit. You'll see some people online like walking around in the wintertime with their shirt off, almost like a Wim Hof style. But I don't think there's anything better than covering your body completely in water.
Okay.
So I know that when I went to Other Ship in Toronto and we tried it for the first time, we had a guide who guided us through our ice bath. And this gentleman, Stu, he was amazing. He played a sound bowl for us while we got in there. Hannah and I got in there together, and he led us through this breathwork exercise prior to and while we were in the cold plunge. And it was just, honestly, it was a life-changing transformational experience. That it was 2.5 minutes, but the prompts that he gave us and the things that he made us think of, and he explained how the breath work was impacting our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, and how this is benefiting us, and how this was so good for you while you were doing it. And again, when I got out of that ice bath, I felt like I could run through a brick wall. It was amazing. So have you tried an ice bath, May?
This is well, I've had 2 experiences. My parents opened their pool early this year, and it was 56 degrees. Now, I don't know if that's cold enough to be considered one. Yep. But I got in, it was awful for the first 20 seconds. And then I just tapped into my breath, and I'm not, educated enough on the exact breath I should have been using, but basically it was just deep inhales and exhales out of my mouth just to calm me the fuck down, because I was shivering. But I ended up staying in for 3.5 minutes. And when I got out, I didn't feel invigorated, but I felt like euphoric. My whole body just felt incredibly calm. And I don't know. It wasn't like I wanted to go run a marathon, but I felt at peace. And that's the only way I know how to describe it. So that it was a great first experience. And then, not to mention, but I was dealing with a lot of tendonitis in my elbow at the time. And for like 2 days after that, I did not feel any pain. And I don't know if that was a coincidence or if it was a direct, a result of me getting in that bath, but it was good. And then I tried Mecca Rejuve one day. Their tub was getting a new filter, so it wasn't as cold as it was supposed to be. I think it was like 62, and I only was in for maybe 2 minutes. So I didn't really feel the effects as much that day because I didn't stay in as long. But I have tried it twice. It's literal torture for the first 30 seconds. And then if you can manage it, it just turns into this really like, I don't know, it was amazing. I would love to have a guide by me because I like to understand why I'm doing stuff.
Right.
Just kind of like you said about Darcy. Darcy always talked about in yoga teacher training, she liked the science behind things, or she liked to understand why things were the way they are. And I think that showed in her teaching a lot. So maybe that's why you also connected with her teaching, because I like the scientific aspect of knowing why I'm doing what I'm doing and what it's doing for me. And it's just helpful to have that explanation. So I like that you had a guide. Is that what you plan on doing for your experiences too?
I was just
Yeah.
going to ask.
Yeah. So we, if you look at on our social media for our event at F45, Hannah was the guide for all of the cold plunges.
Oh yeah.
She's perfect for it. If you don't know
Yeah.
Hannah, you guys, who's ever listening, made for it.
Honestly, she truly is. She had her sound bowl and was guiding people through breath work prior to entering the tub, and then talked them through it. And Stu was definitely an inspiration for Mothership of how we're going to go about this. But I feel like every human being needs to try this. I truly believe it's an experience that, like yoga, can really reshape your life and make you think twice about, what you do on a daily basis. Why am I doing this? Does this add value to my life, or does it detract from my goals and how I want to feel? And we got nothing but positive reviews from a lot of people who were doing it for their first time. And there's certainly a sense of accomplishment too. Because I've been doing them now for a little over 4 months, and I still have that dread prior to entering a tub filled with ice and water. But then when
As one should.
right, but you have this sense of accomplishment, like I did something. And that's the same with with a May or a Montana power class. Like, oh no, what do we got ourselves into today? And then you do it, and you're doing it, and then you're done with it, and you're like, man, that was incredible. I'm so glad that I did that. I feel amazing right now.
The way I think about it is there's going to be hard things that happen to you in your life all the time, things that you have no control over, things that you can't choose. And then when you go out of your way on your own to choose hard things to accomplish, you're kind of like reinforcing this idea in your head that you can. So I feel like when you construct your own difficulty and you get through it, then when the unexpected difficulty comes, you're like, I can do this. So it's kind of just, I don't like that, the mindset of like, you must suffer to grow. That's not always true. But I think that if you purposely challenge yourself, then when challenges unexpectedly come your way, you're just a little bit more prepared to handle them.
Eloquently put. Totally agree. That grit that Montana was alluding to.
Yeah,
for sure. Because it's like the physicality part, right, is like, at least in my own opinion, like my body can get through it. It's more the mental game, whether it's deciding to show up for a 6 a.m. yoga class, to like put my body in an ice cold bath, to go run outside, like to freaking put laundry away, whatever it is that like I know is going to make me feel better after I do it. But the getting there and the initial motivation, it doesn't necessarily get easier, right? But the consistency of choosing to do those things, knowing that they're going to make you feel better afterward, I think that's the juice. I had a question that you kind of already answered, but I want to ask it anyways, just to make sure that there isn't anything else that you maybe think of. But I was going to ask like what the similarities of yoga and cold plunging are in your opinion. And you kind of, mentioned some, but
I think that breath work is extremely important with both. I mean, you have to be breathing, you have to breathe through it. And I'll never forget my first ice bath. I didn't have a guide, and I hopped in there and I thought I was going to die. Honestly, it was like, and you're trying to catch your breath, and your flight or fight system kicks in, and your brain's telling you, you got to get out, you got to get out, you got to get out. And over time, I've learned that you just have to breathe through it. And very similar to yoga, you know, in yoga 6, there aren't too many poses that we hold for a very, very long time. But when we do, I feel like that's the hardest part. When you're holding a pose that's really uncomfortable, and the best thing that you can do is breathe through it. So I think that breath work is very important. And then I think community. You know, yoga has this incredible community around it. Yoga 6 has an unbelievable community. You see a lot of similar faces there at 6 a.m. in the morning on a Monday, or 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday. You get to know these people. And I think that there's this shared bond of doing these experiences that help you feel better as a person, but that are also difficult. So yeah. And they both make you feel better and help you grow as a person, mentally and physically.
I think it's cool too, because what you just said also made me think of what May just said. Like, so those things are important, and that the fact that they make you feel good afterward is awesome. But to take it even a step further, like what May was just saying, if you put yourself in these situations or these experiences where your breath, it's required for you to breathe in order to get through it without wanting to die, then off of your mat or outside of the tub, or, you know, whatever in your regular life, when inevitably your boat rocks and shit happens and unexpected challenges show up, then your brain is already training itself in these yoga or cold plunge situations to breathe through the challenge, and to respond instead of to react, and to remind itself that, like, this is really hard, this is really unfortunate, this is annoying, this is frustrating, whatever, but like, I'm going to be able to move through it seamlessly and with grace because I know how to breathe. And that's like, for me, Matt, you mentioned this earlier about how, like, when you got back into yoga, the breath was really challenging for so long, for years. I feel like teachers would say, like, set your intention. And for years, my intention was like, just be able to breathe when they say inhale and exhale. And it took me so long to be able to take a yoga class and actually inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale as instructed throughout the whole 60, 75, 90-minute experience. And I think that is really like the catalyst to calming your central nervous system, and why I walk out of a yoga class feeling like high, like that yoga high. And I couldn't agree more. Like, the postures are so fun and challenges within themselves, but the breath is really the key to experiencing a solid class. I hope that that the recording isn't getting denim, just like
He's doing his
all over the place. But yeah, so yeah, I think that's super fascinating and important to note as well, because we've kind of talked about the breath. It's been at least mentioned in each episode, but I think it would be really cool to like have maybe a bonus episode where we like actually guide someone or bring someone on to guide someone through a breath practice.
Maybe a bubbly little blonde girl that knows how to do breath work with a crystal ball.
We both all three of us, our brains were like zing, zing, zing. All right, well, we're gonna leave that teaser there. May, do you have any other questions that you want to ask?
I have to ask Matt if he's ever farted in a yoga class, or if he's ever been next to someone that farted in a yoga class, or if he's ever heard any fart stories.
I have not farted in a yoga class. I have an exceptional ability to hold in a fart. Really, really good skill of mine, but please do not be near me as I'm leaving the class and going to my car.
Oh, you let them rip at the very end. Good for you.
I always get a kick out of it too, because, you know, they're like movie length tubes.
That is a skill. That is a skill that you should open a business and teach people how to do that.
Right. I've perfected that craft on airplanes.
Okay.
but
the whole world thanks you.
I don't know if right. I don't know. I feel like I've definitely heard something that resembles a fart in class. Fortunately, I've never smelled it. What is the policy, guys? Is it you should let it loose or should you hold it in?
I was thinking about this the other day because as a teacher, you're supposed to, like, farts, shit happens. Farts happen. You don't make a scene. You try not to laugh. Like, there's been a few times as a teacher wearing a microphone where I've heard an exceptionally amazing movie fart and I've had to professionally not crack a smile or laugh. And it was literally like the hardest thing in the entire world. So I would say don't be afraid to come to class. Farts happen. But like on the other hand, like I've been teaching this class recently where this newer person has been coming and literally farting the entire time. Like, and I know this because I'm near them. I'm not going to say which studio. I'm not going to say whatever, who they are. They fart a lot. And it's loud and smelly and it's like to the point, it's the only time I've ever actually been disturbed by a fart. And I'm wondering, like, what is the policy? Do we, like, what do you do? Because like half the entire room smells and everybody else is experiencing it. So like, do you say like, hey guys, don't like eat tacos before you come to class? Or like, I don't know, you have to accept that the farts are there. But these are like, they could end the world with the level of these farts. So that's what, Montana, could you advise as a supervisor of teachers, like, do you just have to deal with it?
So I'm going to answer the question. And then for the first time ever, we're going to pause the recording because speaking of farts, I think Denim has to go outside. And I've already had to clean up a mud pie from the house once, or not once, multiple times, but like out of his crate. So as a yoga, I think it's up to everyone's discretion. I'm going to hold that shit in. One of our favorites, Bradshaw, why can't I think of his last name? Okay, I got to pause it.
It's all right.
We'll be right back. We're back. Apologies. So I think it's up to everyone's, whatever everyone feels most comfortable with. I'm definitely not going to fart in a class on purpose. I have farted one time in a class though. I've actually never talked about it on this. We were going from plow into fish. And I was literally like, my legs were back behind, like I'm on my back and I was literally rolling forward and it was like, and the teacher we did our 200 hour together, but like I love her to death. She's just like very like quiet and like mousy and timid. And that's obviously not me. So we weren't like the bestest of friends. So like for me to do that, I'm sure she was more embarrassed than I was. But Bradshaw Bush recently posted on the Funny Thing About Yoga podcast Instagram that was like, teachers, if you have to pee or shit during class, what do you do? He's like, because I will literally just be like, okay, mid-class shavasana and like run out. And I commented and was like, I hold that shit in literally until it starts to seep back into my veins. Like, but I also will make sure that like I don't have to do that before class. Like I'll go multiple times to avoid that from happening. So that's where I stand. But Matt, since you haven't experienced farts in a class, look, I'm going to ask a May question. Do you have any class bloopers, like something that sticks out?
Ooh. I mean, I've fallen plenty of times. I'm still trying to do, and I'm poor with names. Tree, where I can hold my toe and like stick my leg straight out. And I fall almost every time I do that. And the occasional like touching your neighbor. Yeah, I don't know about bloopers. I definitely have some like things that annoy me. I don't know if we want to go down that.
Share one. Share one.
I want to hear it.
All right. Well, I can't stand see, I don't want to rub anyone the wrong way, but I can't stand when people leave class early. It just really rubs me the wrong way. It's like,
you're allowed to not like that. I feel like if there's 5 minutes at the end of class, just fucking stay.
Right. Come on. We're talking about 5 minutes. Like, let's go. Just stay in there and be still and let's not get out of here and beat the rush. That's something that can get under my skin a little bit.
That's your peeve.
Yeah.
I
So
had a blooper the other day. I did a spinal twist and I reached my right arm out to the side and accidentally poked some guy in the armpit. And I was like, sorry for tickling your armpit, strange man.
So I like, for you guys, you've both been doing yoga, I imagine, for a really long time. What continues to like fuel your fire? What keeps you inspired to do it and spread the yoga gospel?
Look at you flipping the
Good
script.
question. Yeah. You do listen to Joe Rogan, don't you? May, you want to go or do you want me to go?
You can go first.
So it's never the same. Like I've done crescent lunge a trillion times at this point in my life, but like it's never the same. Every single class that I take, whether it's an amazing sequence or literally the same sequence, like it's a different experience for me each and every time, every single time. So for like, what could I call them? 4 feelings, I guess, that I really focus on making sure I experience at least once a day are presence, contentment, feeling grounded, and joy. And I feel like yoga brings all 4 of those things to the limelight at once. I'm present, I'm grounded, I feel content. And then I'm so joyous doing it. I can also sense like, and I'm talking about, I guess teaching and practicing, but more specifically, I'm talking about practicing right now. It also like, it just makes me, I can't deny the shifts within myself that happen off my mat when I'm in my consistent practice. And as soon as I start realizing that I'm acting or reacting in ways that I don't really like, or that I don't agree with in myself, it's like a straight indication that I need to get back on my mat because I'm irritable or short-tempered or annoyed or whatever. And one practice, whether that's in a studio or just like taking, 20 minutes by myself on the floor in my house, shifts my response rate back to like what I want it to be and what feels good. So I just can't deny the benefits that it brings to. And I've also spent my entire life moving my body because I danced since I was a little baby. And so I can't, like, it's just, yoga is such a beautiful transition from dance that it still gives me like that joy, that joyous sense that dance gave me in like kind of what you said, Matt, like in a more mature way. That a mature version of Montana is the yogi, as to a less mature version of Montana was the dancer. And as a teacher, I love the community, and I love getting to watch I love getting to watch students like progress in their practice. And it's one thing for me to notice like, oh, so-and-so's Warrior 3 looks really, really different than it used to. But when someone else recognizes it in themselves and I get to see that, I'm just like, oh my God, this is literally so fucking amazing. And then when something like that happens in someone and they recognize that they see the shift in themselves, the way that they look in Shavasana, because we do this thing at Yoga 6 and I ended up doing it at every studio that I teach at, where we waft like an oil scented towel over everyone in Shavasana. So I get to see their faces, and like seeing people's faces in Shavasana when class really landed, or they're really proud of themselves. Like I could just cry. I'm just like, I see their face in Shavasana. I'm like, this is it. I love you. I love this. It's amazing. Everything's great. There's no badness in the world.
That's funny you said that, because that's exactly what I was going to say. I love all of it, obviously. And, even there's big classes and little classes and all the different formats that we teach, but like every now and then there's days where the energy in the room like is just so palpable that you can feel it and everybody can feel it. And what I love about it is it's not because of me. It's not because of one of the people that are taking the class, but it's because like everyone in the room somehow is riding this same wavelength, that it just lands and people are comfortable and we laugh and we just enjoy ourselves. And it's like such a cool, it's like going to a concert kind of, you go to concerts where you love the show, but then you go to concerts where you love the show and the energy in the room is just like, you're electric. And it's so hard to explain or to describe. And I mean, I'm sure anybody listening has felt it, but it's good no matter what. But the days that the energy is just there, it's just like, it's like a high, and it just feels it feels so good. It's just like, what is it like what humans are supposed to feel like all the time, just in this place where we're all sharing this good feeling together, and we're all encouraging each other, and we're all like enjoying this beautiful thing together that like might not make sense to anybody that's not in this room right now, but it makes so much sense to everybody here right now. And it feels so good that we all just created this like beautiful feeling that we can all feel together. And then at the end, when you're wafting people with the oils at the end, and like some people like lean into it and their eyes are closed and they like lean up and they look so like grateful and at peace. And that's just like, it's nice to know in a direct way that you've kind of like given somebody a moment of peace in their day. It's just like helping in any way that you can to, like Matt said earlier, just make someone feel a little bit better than they did before. It's nice, because I feel like we all need to feel better. And, we all have a lot going on. Things are heavy all the time. People are stressed. People have so many obligations, and just to be able to offer like just even a minute where they have that energy or they feel that electric feeling is wonderful.
I like what you said too about, like you said, being able to help. I think that's a big one too for myself and for you, May. I'll speak for both of us. Like the service aspect, I feel like it's my duty as a human being, me specifically, to be of service in some sort of way. And yoga also helps me feel like I'm helping other people and in the best and truly like the only way I know how, which is through movement of the physical body, which then can lead to so many other things that span so far beyond the physical body that is hard to explain and to like bubble up into an explanation or words.
Yeah, I appreciate both of you guys providing your expertise and your amazing classes. I know that I've probably been in both of yours more than I can count. I truly do enjoy like the prompting and the little perspective that you guys often give at the beginning and end of class, the music that integrates it all and makes it kind of click and work. I can often get frustrated because I think it's such an amazing experience and it's so good for everyone. I want everyone to do it. And I want my parents to do it. And I want everyone that I love and that I care about, I'm like, you need to go and you need to try it. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but some people just have a little bit of resistance, similar to cold plunge, that it's not for me, or like I don't know. So I'm still I'm preaching the gospel of yoga everywhere I go, and I'm trying to get even athletes that I train, I'm trying to get them to do it. Like, you're going to feel better, you're not going to get injured as much. So I'm huge advocates of it, and I do think that you both do an amazing job, and I think it's awesome that you started this podcast and kind of took the leap, and kudos to you guys. This is really, really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It means a lot. And it just gets me so excited because we're right now preaching to the choir, but hopefully it goes.
I have one more question for you guys. Where do you, like, I know that yoga is, it's like thousands of years old, I believe. Where do you see it going? Do you see any sort of changes or how technology can be incorporated? Where do you see yoga in 20 years, exactly where it's at? I don't know if it necessarily needs to change because it's been a proven practice, but do you see any trends or anything changing that's noteworthy?
It's always going to change. I mean, I think that like there are a group of people that are probably horrified by the way it's changed already, just with the presence of there being loud music in a room, or and I get that there's a lot of resistance to change in anything. So the people that really like truly believe in the roots of yoga and where it came from, and they follow the more classical approach to yoga, they find it distracting and probably a little bit disrespectful to hear the music, or to have it be more about the physical, the asana. And a lot of yoga is now about the asana. And like we said, people leave before Shavasana even starts. They just want to come, they want to get the workout, they want to go. And, I can see how, when things deviate from where they came from, it feels disrespectful to the roots of what it was. But in another way, it's offered so much more widely now that there are so many more people that it's available to, and so many more people can practice it in the way that, you know, resonates in their life. And maybe they're not practicing it the way that it used to be or the way that it should be, but it is the way it should be because it's the way they're doing it. And if it's the way they're doing it, works for their life and gives them that 2 minutes, even 2 minutes of peace in their day, then I think that they're doing exactly the way they're supposed to be doing it. But I think it'll obviously always continue to change. Like I even saw, I think this was during maybe COVID that this started. I don't know if it's still a thing, but I saw there was like polar yoga where people were doing yoga in freezing cold rooms. And that was a whole different thing. I haven't read about it since, but I thought that was weird. And I was like, who the fuck would do that? And then here I am, like, I'm judging the thing that I don't like when other people judge the way I practice it. But it's just like, there'll be wacky shit that will always change. People doing yoga and fucking rocket ships on the moon, who knows? But as long as they're doing it, and as long as they're doing it in a way that makes them feel good and go home and not yell at their family or slam cabinets or hit their horn in traffic, like fucking do it. Do your yoga, stand on your head, kick your legs, and fart for 20 minutes straight. Like if that is your yoga, do it. If that is what's making you feel good and be a better person, do it. And I hope that's where it goes, is that people feel free to practice it in a way that just makes sense in their daily life and makes them feel better.
Dig it.
I can't say like where I think how it's going to change because I don't know, but what came to mind is like how I specifically in my own little way want to be a part of the changes that happen in the yoga world. And this is more focused on teachers, less than students. But there's like so many 200 hours trainings out there. It's, arguably an oversaturated market at this point. And there's really good ones. And there's really good ones for certain people, right? Like one that's really good for one person might not be really good for me and vice versa. But there's also some out there that just aren't good. And I know I've done one of them. I've done 200 hours, and one of the 200 hours that I did was just not good. And so regardless of like opinion, it didn't teach me the thing. Like if it was the first 200 hour I did, I don't know how I would have taught. And so I appreciated being able to do it as a second 200 hour because I already had a foundation and a baseline. So that being said, like I realized in my role as a lead teacher at Yoga 6, which then turned into master trainer, that as much as I love to teach yoga, what I really, really feel passionate about and what I feel like what I'm meant to do, like my dharma, is to help train, coach, and support other teachers in being the best teacher that they can be. So I want to really create more continuing education for people who have already gone through a 200 hour. So whether they, number one, if you're thinking about doing a 200 hour, research, because we have to make sure that it's solid. Number one, and then number two, you have to make sure that it's a good fit for you. And then after that, it's kind of like, all right, well, what's next? You can only get so much practice in teaching classes, and that can only take you so far. But having like a mentorship program or like a coach that's supporting you in your growth and shining light on what you're doing really well and shining light on where there's space for growth, because there always is for everyone. I think that's going to shift. That's going to open up the possibilities for more practitioners to do yoga. If there are more teachers that are teaching confidently from their own voices and being who they are through the lens of a yoga teacher, rather than trying to be someone else or trying to, fit into this perfect like picture of what their 200 hour told them that they were supposed to be. So yeah, that's how I want to be a part of the changes in the future. And I think that all that to be said is a perfect segue to our last question, which is, do you think yoga can change the world? Yes or no, and why?
I absolutely think that yoga can change the world. I think that as I age and as I live on earth a little bit longer, I tend to realize that the key to life and being successful or just living a happy life is regulating your emotions. I think that's probably the most important skill that anyone could possess. And so I think that yoga really helps you maintain that sort of even keel mindset and the ability to regulate your emotions, be present, be grateful, look inward, and feel good. And so I think that, you know, there are a lot of people today that have never been so connected, but disconnected, right? We have a million friends on Facebook or Instagram, but we feel like we have no friends, or we feel like we're lonely and we just feel like shit. And so I think that yoga and certain of these practices really help us to try to find that community to be a part of, and that thing that we're passionate about that just helps us grow as an individual. And so I think the more people that can participate and feel the benefits, they'll feel good, they'll be happy, they'll be kind to others. And I think we just need a little bit more kindness and love in this world. And I think that that can really help.
I'm sorry, was that Matt just squeezing all that fresh juice?
I
Were
wish
those
they-
orange smushers?
Yeah.
I should have just said, no, next question.
Yeah. I wish that everyone could have seen me and May. We got really close to our screens and like put our hands next to our mouths. Like, is that the juice or what?
One day we need to film this and get one of those fancy microphones that all the podcasters
Oh,
use.
we
And
will.
like, okay, good.
We're
You
gonna
guys-
have a
You should
studio.
be doing yoga during the yoga chat. There
We're
you
gonna
go.
get fancy with it someday.
Eventually.
Right now we're still sitting on beanbag chairs.
Yeah.
At least I am.
Gotta start somewhere. I love it.
Spinny. All right.
That was
well,
for Montana's husband. The first time we did this episode, I said I was sitting on a beanbag chair, and he texted me after and goes, "Were you just saying that to be cool?" And I was like, "I'm sorry. Is that cool? Is it cool that a grown woman is sitting on a beanbag chair doing a podcast?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I really was. But also, I guess I'm cool now. But someday I'll be in a real chair with a real microphone."
he listens to all of them and he gives very helpful feedback.
He does. He
Yeah.
does.
It's awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Matt. Per usual, this hour flew by. I
Yeah.
apologize that we had to pause for the first and hopefully only time, but I appreciate you guys being flexible, pun intended. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great week. And Matt, I loved getting to hear more of your story, and I can't wait to share it with the masses.
Same. And I liked your questions. Thanks for asking us
Yeah,
questions. It made
that
me
was
think a
fun.
little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun, and best of luck to both of you. I like I said, I think it's awesome that you're doing this, and much success to both of you. I'll see you in the yoga studio shortly, hopefully.
I think you might see us on the 17th, because I think I might come freeze my ass off at your
Let's
event.
go, May. Let's go. I can't
I
wait.
would love to. I've got my very last day of this round of the 300. Otherwise, I would be there, but I'm going to be there very soon. I've been
All right.
making sure Hannah gets my ass in the bath.
You're gonna love it.
Tried to make that rhyme, but it didn't really work. All right, guys. Peace.
All right.
Thank you, Matt.
Bye.
See ya.